I guess what I wish I knew when I was younger, and what I try and teach everyone now is...
Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I'm with Coach B again. B is a climbing coach of 20 years. You've been teaching climbing for 20 years now.
At all, yes. In the now 2 decades that I've been teaching climbing, talking about climbing, doing climbing, there are many things that I've learned on this journey that I really learnt the hard way, that I'm hoping that perhaps if I were to share some of that information with you all, you will still have to learn it, because in order to succeed we must fail, but perhaps that could be a slightly smoother, more informed and aware journey if you learn about my mistakes, or maybe mistakes, maybe not mistakes, lessons that I have learned. But all I'm going to say to you today is, this is my experience. If you are in the place in your life to hear what I say, then you will hear it and you will learn from it.
I'm excited. Let's go.
This time 10 years ago, almost to the day, I woke up from a major spine surgery because I burst a disc in my lower back. Can you see it there, or do I need to go down further?
Yeah, you can see it here. That wound.
Yeah, this time 10 years ago. Crazy journey. And the journey I've been on since that operation has almost split my last 20 years into 2 very clearly different decades of climbing and training and the way I teach climbing. Realizing what I had done in that first 10 years that had perhaps exacerbated or maybe even led to that injury, and then what I've done since then, and hopefully the people that I've helped since then not have to go through the journey that I went through to come out the other side stronger and fundamentally more connected. So what I'm going to talk about now is how I learnt to connect my hands and my feet, this important part in the middle. I'm going to show a few exercises that I have done that have helped me be now so much stronger and fitter than I ever was in my 20s. Fundamentally, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So there were parts of me that were very strong and parts of me that were very weak, and parts of me that were very stiff and parts of me that were more loose. Everybody is different. For me, this connection is what started to connect that chain and make all the parts of my chain strong. One of my rehab exercises was actually just learning to engage my deep core. And I find one of the easiest ways to do that is just pulling my belly button towards my spine and very slowly coming into just a tabletop position. If you do this really slow and controlled, you can feel in a really subtle movement like this, your core engaging. I guess my top tip, hold yourself accountable. Every time you do the exercise, make sure you are being honest with yourself. Do I feel that I'm engaging the correct muscles? Yes, it feels harder. I'm not just choosing my path of least resistance and making the exercise easy so that it looks like I'm doing loads of hard reps. I'm actually really challenging myself and the correct muscles. A really good example of this, and something that I think every single person I've ever worked with almost, I've had to fine tune with them, is in a hollow body hold core exercise. A lot of people do exercises like this, or they do sort of core or crunch stuff. So often we are doing high repetitions of these exercises and actually using more like our hip flexors and our back and often momentum, thinking, oh yeah, I'm getting a bit of a burn in my core, I'm probably having a good workout. But if you really slow that down, so often I can absolutely exhaust someone just by getting them to visualize pulling their belly button towards their spine, having a connection with the spine and the floor, and doing really slow, controlled exercises like this. I'm putting all of my energy into here. Immediately, 5 seconds in, I've got a burn here. This is a really helpful cue. When you start to get tired, the back will want to lift, especially when you're adding leverage in. As soon as that back lifts, we're no longer connecting in on that deep core. We don't have that pelvic tilt anymore. I think of it as, if this band of muscle is engaged, it feels like a springboard. When it loosens, it feels like a bouncy castle, and you get an arch in your back. So I want to make sure that I've got that springboard and that I have I couldn't slide my hands underneath my spine. And we want to maintain that for the duration of the exercise. So awareness, super key on this one. Okay, so something that really clicked with me post spine operation was how to connect from my feet right through to my fingertips. So I'm going to demonstrate to you now a way that I used to climb and a way that I now try to climb with a lot more awareness of how I can connect my whole chain. I'm going to try and climb this, remembering old me style, with no real thought or awareness on where I'm putting my energy and attention. I'm just going to kind of have a little play. Okay, now I'm going to try and connect. I'm going to try and learn something from this climb. It's not to say that that wasn't fun. I like climbing like a monkey. I've always liked swinging around in the trees. I think, yeah, pull-ups are fun. But, especially in transferring to sport climbing, it has become very helpful for me to learn how to use my lower body to increase efficiency, which also, as a boulderer, there's going to be hard moves nearer the top. By the time we get to that crux, we're going to start getting exhausted. Oh, that also felt nice. It's like my body has a awareness of where it is in space so that I can enjoy moving my limbs in a kind of controlled way. And I think that's something that it was like I had a disconnect from, I knew this part of me, maybe like here and here, but I didn't know anything from there downwards. And it was like I had to introduce myself to this part of my body. And sadly for me, it took having a back operation or just really hurting myself to have to connect with that part of my body. But that's why I'm so passionate now about anybody that will listen to me for more than 5 minutes. I'll try and help them find their whole body. What about this orange? That's a bit more dramatic. One of the easiest ways that I've helped other people and myself to find this connection and this awareness is my feet, hips, hands mantra almost. We're going to set the feet, we're then going to engage the hips, and then we're going to move the hand. Feet, hips, hands. And that's not to say that you have to use the technique that I'm using to achieve that move, but the awareness is in setting the feet, maneuvering the hips, and then the hand just is there. So feet, hips, there's the hand. I'm almost wanting to miss things out because I'm so engaged. Feet, hips, hand. Feet, hips, hands. Let's try something a little bit different. So I've set the feet, I then maneuver through the hips, and then the hand is there. Feet, hips, hands. Okay, so how I would often see people climb a climb like this, and maybe my more younger intuitive way to climb this might be more hands, feet, hands. Okay, there's a foot. Oh, there's a hand. Okay, cool, there's a foot. And so I'm constantly in this try hard turtle fight mode, thinking, all right, oh, there was a foot there. Okay, maybe I should have used that sooner. All right, there's a foot there. And then by this point, I'm like, okay, I'm pretty knackered. Oh no, there's a small hold. What do I do with that? What's my sequence here? Okay, let's. It's fun exaggerating that. I'm being an idiot, but you know what I mean.
If you've been watching Hannah Morris Bouldering for a little while, you'll know that we've been working with Rungne for the last couple of years now. We've teamed up on lots of different projects like the Creator Cup competitions, we've collaborated on video essays. Last year we released a co-designed t-shirt, which by the way is the one I'm wearing in this video, shout out to the Venture Further tee. Honestly, the whole process of working on that t-shirt design and seeing it go from idea to a product that you guys could rep was such a fun experience for me, and I feel like that's kind of the whole vibe with all of Rungne's tees. So I'm super excited to be sharing that Rungne is giving HMB viewers a free t-shirt with any order over $99. All you have to do is hit the link in the description of this video, sign up, and you'll get a code sent to your email. You can also stack discount codes. So if you use my code Hannah at checkout, you can get an extra 10% off. So big thanks to Rungne for supporting the channel. Now back to the video with B. So I guess at this point we've covered a lot of like physical tips.
Yep.
But as we all know, climbing is such a like cerebral sport, and so much of climbing performance is like happens in the mind.
A conversation that I try to have early on with anyone that I'm working with is working out, are there any mental barriers that are actually stopping someone from achieving their physical or technical potential? We can be as strong as we like, we can be as technical as we like, but if we are very nervous at any point on a climb, everything tenses up, we go into try-hard turtle protective mode, and all technique goes out the window and we burn out our strength. If we can adopt a kind of exposure therapy concept to whatever those triggers are, or things that bother us for whatever reason, we can gently introduce ourselves to them in a way that the mind can kind of catch up with the body and say, okay, maybe I don't have to be as afraid of this. But the only way it's ever going to know that and relax into that is if it's taught in a safe, gentle environment that that is in fact an okay experience to have. So I had this to a terrifying degree when I first learnt to lead climb, especially outside. I was absolutely terrified above my clip, to the point where my first experience lead climbing in Portland, I cried nearly the whole day. I'm going to give a little example in a very different environment here, but as we're in a bouldering centre, we're not out on a rock face flying above our clip, of how we can maybe introduce, thank goodness indeed, how we can introduce the concept of very gentle and steady exposure therapy to something that we're maybe not very comfortable with. And we're going to do that in a dynamic way, because a lot of people aren't comfortable with dynamic movement. We're going to try, and this is a little bit spicy, with maybe someone a little bit more new to climbing. I would get them to do this on a slab to start with, but we're going to give it a shot, releasing both hands at the same time and re-catching them on the same hold again afterwards. Lovely. So we're building that really confident, flowy movement by setting our base and moving both hands at the same time. And what you're doing beautifully here is addressing a physical, technical and psychological challenge.
Slightly less coordinated, but I'll take it.
That was great. And if you do that every time you climb, on multiple climbs, building up the difficulty, your exposure to that moment of uncertainty will soon not be a moment of uncertainty, it'll be a confidence.
Like this is pretty comfortable. Yeah. I'm not particularly scared, I wouldn't say, but I'm just not confident that I'll make the move.
Yeah, cool.
And so my brain almost overwrites my body.
Yep.
And it doesn't feel like, when I take one hand off and go, I'm like almost frustrated with myself. So I'm like, brain, why have you, or body, why have you just done that? Because brain wanted to go with both hands.
So that comes back to our mind is our most powerful tool, in that you know that you can physically do that, but there's something in you that's doubting it. And it doesn't have to be fear. Like we've spoken about fear because of being above your clip feels scary, but any mind training isn't necessarily just to do with fear, it's to do with confidence, self-belief, commitment to something. And we can learn that commitment in a drill at the beginning of our climbing sessions, that hopefully then when we're actually going for that big, slightly daunting crux at the top of the wall, we've already had that conversation with our mind and connected mind and body here. So good, mate. Love that. Awesome effort. Now this is getting super steep, and in all fairness, I would start to question the benefit of this over the potential shoulder injury as we get to this steepness. So I would say that was a wise choice at that point.
Brains are like, they are so powerful, but then they are also just,
they're so malleable
like
as well.
Lumps of meat that you can make work for you.
100%. They're trainable, they're malleable.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
Cool.
Another really key thing that I wish younger self knew was breathwork, and that we can actually manage the way in which we feel in our mind and our body through really simple breathing exercises. My basic understanding of it that's helped me a lot and helped the people that I work with a lot is that we have a parasympathetic nervous system and a sympathetic nervous system. Our parasympathetic would be when we're feeling really calm, when we're meditating, going for a walk in the woods, Our sympathetic might be when we're feeling in our fight or flight mode. We're quite anxious, we're stressed, we're holding our breath on a scary, hard move on a climb. And we actually have an ability with just how we breathe to move between these systems. So what I'm going to do now is a few different exercises with Hannah, and we're going to do a little go compare on how does it feel standing on a slightly challenging rounded volume when we're a little bit tense and anxious versus when we do some calming breath work beforehand and perhaps even a deep breath when we're on the wall. Before approaching a move like this, it could well be a slightly traumatic memory from competitions where my brain immediately looks at things like a slab or anything balancing and goes, you've got one chance to not mess this up. And you suddenly go into fight or flight mode of like, don't mess this up. That's a really unhelpful mode to be in when you actually just need to be calm and trust that your body knows what to do. So I now try and replace that thought with a deep breath that just goes, okay. Let's just give this a go. Let's sink into my feet and see what happens. And as soon as I take that breath in and long, slow breath out, I'm telling my mind and body, this is okay. You're gonna be fine. Like, let's just give this a shot. So, deep breath in and slow breath out. I sink down. Okay. I didn't really know if that was gonna work or not, but it did. I'm sinking down into my foot. I threw my weight over my foot and I'm trusting that that foot's going to stick. So I'd like you to just give it a shot.
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk about maybe some things we could do to help.
So just stand up on this one.
Yeah, so all I want you to do is stand on that volume. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Are you aware at all? Did you feel anything anywhere in your body or your mind?
Yeah, I was definitely aware of, like, I thought through the implications of that slipping on my shins.
Okay.
So that was in my mind, but I was definitely kind of going through a little bit of a tug of war with my mind to be like, don't think about that. Perhaps focus on what you're doing.
Did you remember anything from earlier that you could replace that thought with?
Yes.
You just did it.
Give me a moment. Breathing. I would say, I think, even though I know that we're doing a breathwork drill,
Yeah.
I think I got blinkered on the move
Yeah.
and thought certainly more about my foot slipping than I did about breathing. And I think I rushed it
Yeah.
and I didn't actually very consciously breathe.
Okay, cool. That's the perfect time then for us to do this exercise. Take a seat with me, Hannah. I'm gonna just count in 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, out 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4. And I want you to just try your best to sort of relax your body into that breathing. If you can, just do that in through your nose and out through your nose. If your nose feels blocked at all, then breathe out through your mouth. 4, hold 2, 3, 4. Then empty that balloon out 2, 3, 4. Before you step on the climb, even if you don't do a full round of the box breathing, you go in for 4 and then maybe out for 8 and see what it feels like to really like continue that melting down feeling, almost like your shoulder blades are melting into your back pocket. And then when you take that breath out and you step up, hopefully that melting feeling continues into your feet as your heels melt down and you trust and sink into that volume. This may well not work. It's not a first time magic pill. It would be incredible if it does. But even if you just feel a little bit more relaxed when you step onto that volume and you no longer, if you can replace that thought with a breath, that's our challenge here.
Yes, I think it's just very powerful to feel like you can change pace in things.
Exactly it. It's empowering, right?
You feel less like you're on a runaway train and more like you're the one driving it, maybe?
Exactly. Nice. How do you feel?
Yeah, I felt better. I think I obviously had the benefit of it being second attempt, but it felt more like I was focusing on how I was feeling, and I took a very conscious deep breath at the beginning.
Yeah, that was so much better.
It was way better, yeah.
Nice.
as well as bringing you into that calmer state, it shows you again that you are in control of the pace of your session. I don't have to, like, when you're in fight or flight, I think you're like, I have to go, quick, I'm being chased by a lion.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm not being chased by a lion, so I can just take a minute to reset and
100%.
go.
I love that.
I can imagine in like a competition scenario when there is a time pressure, but you need to be able to calm yourself down, knowing that there's that time pressure.
Yep.
That taking that, like, even though it feels like a waste of time, right? The clock's ticking down, and do you want to waste that 10 seconds breathing when you could be like hammering the climb?
That
maybe you're giving yourself a
2-second
better
breath could be the most valuable 2 seconds you spend in that comp.
Yeah.
Mate, that was stunning. So beautiful. I guess one of my last things, and something that applies to everybody in a really different way, is climbing IQ is a really broad topic and thing for me to even say. Some people that I work with seem to be almost born with this natural climbing intuition, but I think everybody has, within the pie chart of physical, technical and psychological areas of climbing, we all have different strengths and weaknesses within this paradigm. Some people might seem like they're really naturally strong climbers, and strong climbers are really celebrated in climbing. If you've got big biceps, you're a really strong climber. But what if actually the climber next to them that might not look like your traditional strong climber has a really incredible intuition and climbing IQ for the technical aspects, or they really know how to maneuver their body around some holds? They might be even more successful climbers. So I guess what I wish I knew when I was younger, and what I try and teach everyone now, is not only do we all have natural areas of intuition within climbing, we can celebrate our strengths, but we can also really work our weaknesses. So movement being one of the areas I'm most hot on as a coach, I spend a lot of time giving people tools to increase their technical movement climbing IQ through drills that encourage you to learn from what's not just right, but what's also wrong for your body. So I'll demonstrate in a second, but what I'm going to show you is if on the same climb, I try and force myself to do a rock over on every move. I'm then going to force myself to do an outside edge flag on every move, then an inside edge flag, and then the drop knee. Now, some moves will feel clunky and awful in one technique than the other. It's good to do both the good and the bad, because we always learn from the good and the bad. And in order to succeed, we must fail. We can fast track that success if we do drills that encourage us to learn, ideally in every warm-up, and even better in every cool down, because we remember the last thing we do on a session. That's going to fast track us into improving our movement climbing IQ. Okay, so I'm now going to try it on something a little bit harder to try and force me to struggle with certain techniques on certain moves. So forcing just rockovers on this purple is going to be interesting. Mostly because I don't have a foot where I need it to do a rockover. So to stay on my inside edge, it's going to feel very strange there. But on this move, makes a lot of sense because I want to rock over to get to that hold. Okay, cool. That felt okay, staying on inside edge froggy legs on most of those moves. Just a bit funky at the start. So now I'm going to try and force outside edge on every move. This is going to be interesting. So this literally doesn't make sense for this move. I missed that. Ugh. Okay, strange. That's interesting though. That taught me a lot. Because I've practiced inside edge flags quite a lot, I have quite a high climbing IQ for it. So by that I kind of mean intuitively my body has the answer to the question quite quickly when it's been asked of it. But the more you do these drills, the more you're reinforcing these movement patterns into your autonomous nervous system. And it's like, if you do lots of maths, you can answer your times tables like this. I have to work out my times tables because I haven't practiced them enough to just know the answer. I've practiced inside edge flags enough to know the answer. I think that's pretty cool that on my 20th year of coaching, this is our 10th video we've done together, 10 years since my back operation. That's beautiful. There's something very serendipitous about today.
So that brings us to the end of the things that Bea wishes she knew when she first started climbing. I think it's important to note that, like, we've been having kind of like the conversation throughout this whole session about how one of the best things about climbing is that it kind of invites you to just make mistakes and get it wrong and fail and fall often, and that's kind of just part of the game. So it's definitely not like avoid mistakes in climbing at all costs, and perfection is not always the goal, but I do feel like there are habits that climbers get into and oversights that climbers make that put them at increased risk of injury and that limit their progression and limit the vastness of what climbing can offer. As always, if people want to get in touch, find you, book a session, book a remote session, where might they find you?
On my website. I mean, I say you can find me. You're better off getting in touch because I don't actually have any sessions up on my website other than remote stuff, but I'm pretty good at, if you message me at the right time and I'm going to be there, I'll see you. It's all quite serendipitous the way that I work now, but yeah, you can always get hold of me on a remote call.
Yeah, and I can't recommend booking an in-person session would be enough. See you in the next one.
Sweet.